Disney Plus is in a peculiar situation right now. The product, which is a product of the Disney company, loses $4 billion a year. Disney, the company, trades at 157 times free cash flow. Their free cash flow is $1 billion. So when you think about this, on top of the fact that the CEO just left, Bob Chapek, and the old CEO, who did a pretty good job running the company from 2005 to 2020, I mean, he brought massive shareholder value at the end of the day, 15x your returns if you invested in 2005. He's back and he's trying to save the company. But what is exactly trying to save? I think what's going on in Disney Plus is a mess. And I say Disney Plus in particular, which also impacts Disney, because I don't think the company has an identity around that product yet. And we're going to listen right now to some analysis from Lightshed Partner talk a little bit more about what Disney is doing and how they need to realize that streaming must become profitable, and give my thoughts and my analysis on overall where I see this company going. My macro thesis is I don't like any company that relies on paying for content. I believe creators are the future. I don't think that's me being original about this thought. I think this thought is very obvious. And if I was going to buy a company based on content, I would not buy a Disney. I would not buy an Amazon Prime. I would not buy a Netflix. I would always buy something like a YouTube. I would always buy something like a Facebook, because user-generated content and the curation of that, to me, will matter more in the next decade than paying billions and billions of dollars for content that is irrelevant in the next second, which is, the overall reason why I can't get behind it. But let's listen to Disney and how they need to make streaming more profitable.
Launching its ad-supported tier on Disney Plus starting at $7.99 today. And the really big news, the big release from Harry and Meghan coming out later today on Netflix. Netflix shares are up over 30% in the last 3 months. Join us right now to talk about this. I also want to talk a little TikTok maybe as well. Rich Greenfield is here, Lightshed Partners. Nice to see you, Rich. Let's talk Disney first. How big a deal is this? And how many folks do you think ultimately, I don't want to say downgrade, but effectively downgrade their subscription? Some of that will obviously get made up for on the other side by advertising, but is that a good thing or not?
Look, this is Disney realizing they're relatively mature, meaning they've reached most of the customers who are going to pay for Disney Plus, and now pushing aggressively on price. Like, just like the parks. I mean, if you think about it, parks have gone through multiple price increases in the last couple of years. Demand is crazy. This, I think, is looking at the streaming service saying they're losing $4 billion over the last 12 months on streaming. They need to get this to profitability. How are they going to do it is raising what was probably too low of a price and starting to really push on price. And look, people are pretty addicted. I mean, family.
This is also very true. When I got Disney Plus in 2019, it came free with Verizon. And so it's always been subsidized for me for the past couple of years, but it was a pretty cheap price. Now, the reason they kept it that cheap is because they wanted to get to 100 million subscribers quicker than any other streaming service on the planet. And they did it. They did it faster than Paramount, HBO, Netflix. But at what cost? You get to 100 million subs, they use your product, okay, but you charge them pennies to use it, and you gave them all these bundles. Well, are people going to stay at the end of the day when you raise the prices?
I mean, family content on Disney Plus, it's pretty hard to get rid of. Just like that DVD wall that you used to have that was like a babysitter on demand. Disney Plus is a pretty sticky kid service. I think Disney can raise price. Some people will stay and not take the price increase of 38% and just stick with the advertising, and that's fine. Disney's probably neutral to maybe even better off if you take the advertising product. So,
well, that's what I was asking. How are you? What's your analysis of how much the advertising product actually creates in terms of value for Disney investors versus the sub version?
I think given how advertisers are dying for new inventory, whether that's on Netflix now that has advertising or Disney Plus, as consumers watch, especially younger consumers are watching less and less linear TV, the thing you keep hearing from ad buyers all over the world is we need to get to connected TVs. We need to reach younger people. That's how you do it. But Andrew, the real question that everyone should be asking today is not the Disney Plus ad tier, is what is Bob Iger going to do? Like, he's taken the reins. Chapek got fired 2 weeks ago. What is Bob Iger's plan? Are they sticking with sort of narrow Disney Plus, meaning Marvel, Lucas, Pixar, Disney Plus, or are they going general entertainment and really going after Netflix and going after, combining Hulu, buying in Hulu, and whatever they're doing?
What's your bet, and what do you want him to do?
Look, I think the reality is Disney is amazing. Theme parks, consumer products, Disney Studios, theater movies, like the big movies like Wakanda Forever, Avatar's coming up. It does feel like Disney is best suited to just being more narrow and really owning it, maybe selling Hulu, getting out of ESPN. Like Disney is really, really good at what it does and what you know Disney to be. Do they really need to compete across all entertainment? That was certainly the concept behind the Fox transaction. It's not clear that's the direction Iger is going to go. It's going to be very interesting. Obviously.
So a couple things there. I think he makes a point that Disney obviously has their ability. By the way, the camera just switched because my old camera died, so I'm on a different camera now. Disney has the ability for them to be able to make this argument that they can go super narrow, right? They can go into Avatar, they can go into the Moanas of the world, the Lion Kings. Obviously, they have amazing IP. The problem is, I don't know in a competitive economy for attention how you can go that narrow and scale to 300 million subscribers. Like when Netflix is at 200 million, they're trying to go after 400 or 500 million people. That means to get those people to subscribe, you've got to create such unique, diverse, localized, exciting content for them that gets them to pay for your service month after month. And the better the content is, the better they're going to be able to continue to use the service, which will ultimately influence the stock. Like the content really saves anything or saves everything when it comes to these types of plays. Disney cannot produce a Lion King every week. It's not possible. It's just not possible. The company is too big, and the company is too bureaucratic, and the content itself has to be so good for it to be Lion King level quality, which is why Disney has its moat. It has 100 years of intellectual property that can't be disrupted because it has 100 years of that IP that hasn't been disrupted. It's been able to mature for those 100 years. So, they came out with Frozen back in 2010, 2012. I still never watched it. Frozen 2, that was great. But over the next 100 years, they'll probably be still great and relevant movies, but they need another Frozen. And the problem is, with the age of content, and this is what Bob Chapek was saying when he was interviewed about being Disney CEO, is he didn't realize how much content you really need to keep the end consumer happy. Right. And that was the big, because Disney had always make their money off advertising, and, they had media, but advertising and connected OTT was their ability to be able to sell ads on TV. And that's where the majority of their revenues came from. Now you go direct to consumer, you've got to put up the content. People don't care about the ads unless they pay for the ad version, which is fine. But if they're paying $8-9 a month, they want content, and they do not need to give you that $8-9 because they can give it anywhere else if they're not getting the content, which is why my thesis on YouTube and being the user-generated content behemoth that it is has always been why I believe it's better than Netflix or Disney or any of the other content platforms. So Disney is in a real hard situation. They have to make up a $4 billion loss that they're getting in Disney Plus. They can't only go narrow to kids content, which is the majority of the less than PG-13 stuff, because at the end of the day, that market's just not big enough. You've got to attack a much larger market where there's a lot more attention and a lot more people care about the products at the end of the day. And if they're not able to do that, it's just hard for me to imagine that Disney figures out how to build content that is so good and so specific and that establishes so many more subscribers that they get people to care about the service. Now, Hulu and ESPN, I don't think they should divest from that. Obviously, they bought 20th Century Fox for a reason. But if you're not showing that content on the feed of Disney Plus, right, you're not showing mature content because you want it to be quote unquote Disney, whatever that even means, then it's going to be hard to get more people to open it up. I haven't opened up Disney Plus since October when I watched a little bit of Hocus Pocus. And otherwise, why? I occasionally check Netflix sometimes. I don't really watch TV at all, but I check it. YouTube is the thing I actually watch every day. But Disney Plus, I don't even check because I'm what could Disney possibly put in front of me that would get my attention, that would make me care to listen, right, or watch? It's a hard gamble when it comes to that because they're just going so narrow.
Interesting. Obviously, they're losing a lot of money. They need to fix that. And we haven't really heard. I mean, he's only been back a week or two. So this is not a criticism. It's just that the entire world is sort of waiting to see what is Iger going to do.
Rich, Netflix. It's Harry and Meghan, doc. Everybody's, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, either about it or
I think it's irrelevant in the scheme of things. I just think it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant in the scheme of what's going on right now at Netflix is probably the largest content hot streak we've seen in years. I mean, if you think about what happened with Stranger Things over the summer, Dahmer a couple of months ago, now this show Wednesday. I mean, this show Wednesday Addams is their third largest show in English language in history. It's only been out for 2 weeks, biggest show in a week. They're just having sort of hit series after hit series. And as Andrew, as we know historically, the most important driver of Netflix, sure, advertising helps, but when the content's working, the stock works.
That is true. When the content is working, the stock works. Excuse my camera and my video for being weird because I switched to the other camera. I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can. But at the end of the day, that is the issue for a lot of these companies that want to be in the content space. If you're going to be in the content space, you got to have the best content. And if you don't have the best content, it's just not going to work out. Netflix is one of those companies I just can't bet on because I can't see them putting up this run of content over the next 5 years. Every single week, they have an amazing piece of content. Like, it's hard to do that. Whereas YouTube, there's going to be millions of videos uploaded a day. It's hard for Disney Plus to have an amazing movie every single week to keep kids entertained, especially when YouTube Kids is not that bad. I know it's not Disney, but it's not that bad at the end of the day. It's hard for me to buy these content stocks, especially when they're trading 157 times price to free cash flow. And people are like, oh, well, they're putting a lot of expenditures into Disney Plus, so you can't use free cash flow as a metric. I mean, like, if Disney Plus is the thing they want to make the thing, and it's losing $4 billion a year, putting cash into it is fine. But like, if I don't see a route where they can get out of that hole that they're in, which is this identity of what Disney Plus is it for kids? Is it for the massive audiences? I don't really know. Then I can't justify paying 157 times price to free cash flow for a company that has amazing IP, but I don't know if that IP is worth, really betting the farm on the princesses and Snow White and the Lion King at the end of the day. And if a recession is coming up, how many people are spending $7,000 at a theme park? It's hard for me to get on the Disney train right now. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Is Disney a buy right now? Are you invested in Disney? Are you long Disney? What are your thoughts on the company? Thanks so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.